We've already established that our first principle is love is a choice, not just a feeling, and the importance of putting feelings in the right category and recognizing that the commitments and the promises that you make to one another on your wedding day are so important and foundational to a lasting, healthy marriage. But there's also something else to add if you want to have a healthy marriage, and that's what our second principle is all about, and it's about trust. And I want to define it first because trust is kind of a nebulous idea and it can be kind of confusing. A lot of people, we all throw around the word trust, we understand it experientially, but well, here's a definition for you. Trust is relying on the integrity or ability of another person. You're relying on somebody else's integrity or ability. So what that means is your ability to trust is based more on another person than it is on yourself. And I think that's kind of something that people oftentimes misunderstand, that if I don't trust my husband, then that must be my own issue. But by definition, trust is about what my husband's bringing to the table, his integrity and ability. So I want to make sure we get that picture, the definition of trust in order and squared away in our minds, that trust is about what the other person's bringing to the table. And that's why our second marriage principle is this: trust is earned, not freely given. Because if trust is really about relying on somebody else's integrity or ability, then that means that I am going to need to see from a person if they're trustworthy, right? I'm going to react to my husband and say, well, you seem like you're a trustworthy person because I can rely on your integrity and your ability. See, that's important to know, that as you come into marriage as an engaged couple, trust is something you should be earning every single day. If you're already married and maybe you've already had some experiences where trust has been broken, then you need to know it's all about you need to be earning trust every day in your relationship. That's so important because trust is earned. It isn't just freely given out. So that's why the task of every spouse is to prove to be trustworthy. So when you're coming into your relationship, whether as an engaged couple or already married, recognize that every word you speak, every action that you do is either building into the trust account of your relationship or making withdrawals. If you're not making deposits every day in that trust account, you're not proving to be trustworthy, you're not earning trust from your spouse, then there's going to come a day when you're going to make a mistake, big or small, where you've just been pulling and withdrawing day after day from that account and there's no more trust left to give. So it's very important that both of you understand that your job is to prove to be trustworthy. Here's what it says in the book of Deuteronomy. Understand therefore that the Lord your God is indeed God. He is the faithful God who keeps his covenant for 1,000 generations and lavishes his unfailing love on those who love him and obey his commands. See, even God is proving himself to us. He's earning our trust by how he's proven to be faithful over 1,000 generations. And that needs to be our attitude with our spouse, that you recognize that your job is to prove to be trustworthy, earning trust every day from the other person so that trust account can be built up and can withstand any withdrawal that might have to be made in the future. Now, I want to talk for just a second about the 3 characteristics of trust, because this is important as you think about it in your relationship. That trust is a reactive response. That's the first characteristic of trust. And what I mean by that is, if trust is earned, then that means you're each reacting to what you see in the other person, right? So trust is a reactive response. As you prove to be trustworthy, I will react and give trust to you. The second characteristic is that trust is measurable. So if I trust my husband, I should be able to give specific behaviors and examples of why I trust him. Or on the flip side, if trust has been broken and he needs to earn my trust back in that area, I should be able to say, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And if you're doing those things, then I would say, you're earning my trust. And what's great about that is in an accountability situation, if trust has been broken and I say to my husband, I need you to do X, Y, and Z to earn it back, and he doesn't do those things, it's a very measurable, easy thing to say, well, how have you tried to earn my trust back? Have you proven to be trustworthy? You're not even doing those things that I asked of you. So trust is also measurable. You should be able to pinpoint why you trust or why you don't trust and what's required to earn trust back. And then the last characteristic of trust is that it is time consuming. It takes time to earn it. So remember that, especially if trust is broken somehow in your relationship, that you give it time for that account to be built back up and for your spouse to start earning that trust back that was lost. And then the last thing we want to point out is that there is a difference between trust and forgiveness. And I think a lot of people get confused, not only about the definition of trust, but what's the difference between trust and forgiveness? A lot of people think they're kind of one and the same. That if I'm a trusting person, that means I'm forgiving. If I'm a forgiving person, that means I'm trusting. And the truth is, they're very different in nature. As we already said, trust is a reactive response. You react to what you see from someone. But forgiveness is a proactive response. Forgiveness is a gift that you would choose to give to someone. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter if they've earned it. You choose to give it. Because unforgiveness only breeds bitterness and resentment in your own heart, which is just poison that kills you from the inside out. Has no effect really on the other person. So there's a very big difference. In your relationship, you should always be forgiving. The Bible commands that of us. It doesn't say that there's stipulations or there's certain things that a person has to do in order to be forgiven. Thankfully, God didn't do that for us. He chose to forgive us of all of our sins, and we've done nothing to earn that forgiveness. It's a gift. So forgiveness should always be an outflow of your life. But that doesn't mean you should trust. So if there's been a breach of trust in your relationship, forgive. Absolutely forgive, because that's kind of the vehicle that gets things moving for trust to start to be earned. But just because you forgive someone for an offense doesn't mean you trust them. So say, I forgive you, but you need to earn my trust. So it's very important. Trust is reactive, forgiveness is proactive. Very different in response. So remember, that second principle is trust is earned, not freely given.